It is a great honor to have as chief guest for this inaugural function Shri Major General Dilawar Singh, who is the Director General of Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports in the Government of India. Sir is an alumni of Delhi, Chennai, Devi Ahilya and Osmania University, prestigious Defence Services Staff College and College of Higher Defence Management. Sir has represented India as the delegation leader to numerous countries including USA, China, Russia, Brazil and Maldives. Sir is a counter-terrorism expert and also a practicing specialist for strategic modernization of Indian Army, financial management and training. Sir has also initiated a nationwide campaign among the youth called Nation First Character Must, which is now being carried forward by about 2 lakh youth. We request our Chief Guest, Major General Dilawar Singh, to address this august gathering.
जय हिंद। ऐसे नहीं चलेगा। जय हिंद, जय हिंद, वंदे वंदे वंदे। Okay, thank you. From a soldier this has to come first, and a soldier from India this has to come first. Okay. Respected Dr. B.P. Singh Sehgal is the director, Professor M.K. Balachandran, my friend Shri Narendra Mishra, Professor Ishita Rutabashini, my dear friends and our very special guests from Russia, from Brazil, from Pakistan, from Nepal and from Sri Lanka. It is a great honor to be here, and I wish to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be amongst you. I also wish to thank my Honorable Minister, Shri Sarvanand Sonowal, who was initially invited by you and for some reason he was not able to come, and therefore I represent him in a manner. Besides representing him, I also represent 8.5 million youth who are part of my organization which I head, that is Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan. I deliberately mention 8.5 million youth who are enrolled with my organization, that is Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan. It is a very large organization which is working for mobilizing youth for nation building in the country. Few of you may be knowing about it, few may not. I'll talk about it for 2 minutes towards the end of my talk. I must on the outset say that all of you are singularly lucky. And you're lucky because firstly, you are in India. Secondly, you are lucky because you are in India at a stage of history which is very, very important. If you compare yourselves with a couple of generations ago, you'll find how more luckier you are as compared to those generations. You are also lucky that you are today, most of you students of a very premier university known as Amity University, and others because you are guests of such a good university, getting such a good chance to be able to sit here and know about the sustainable development goals and talk about laws. This international conference on international law perspectives on sustainable development goals is indeed a very important event, and I am going to talk about something slightly different, and that slight difference has been brought about because my previous speakers have covered a large amount of issues which I would have covered otherwise. So I'll start with the concept of the development goals itself and talk about the laws itself. Both the issues are interlinked. Interlinked because both expect the human conduct to be guided in a certain manner. Whether it is development goals or it is your international laws, both expect you to behave and conduct yourself in a certain manner with a certain degree of expectation for a certain kind of outcome in the society, in the nation, on the global forums. If we go back, we know that laws started getting framed at a certain stage in history from the traditions and customs that people used to follow. The traditions and customs gradually started getting formulated as laws, and various laws have thereafter multiplied. Every small organization, every small state, every small and big nation state is creating a large number of laws. My friend Narendra Mishra was trying to find out how many of us know about the Millennium Goals. Very few of us. Similarly, he tried to find out about sustainable goals. Very few of us. Leave aside that. Even after completing 4 to 5 years of your studies as students of law, I am very sure and confident that large number of us are still not aware of the entire set of laws which govern the conduct of people either in this country or other countries or on the global forum, be it international laws of one kind or the other. Issue therefore is, should we have laws? Issue therefore is, very relevant issue is, should we have laws? Issue therefore is, should we have goals? And why I say this is because, again I'll repeat the same sentence, that I represent 8.5 million youth. Youth today wants to question everything. The question that they raise is, should there be a law? Why should somebody guide my conduct? Why should somebody tell me what to eat, what not to eat, what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go, how to conduct my business, how not to conduct my business, whether to pay to somebody or not to pay somebody, whether to pay in reasonable time or not reasonable time, what is the definition of reasonableness, how will we define our laws, how will we interpret our laws. The law remaining same, the two different parties interpret it differently. The law remains same, the facts remain same, the circumstances remain the same. But when you reach the court, the both opposing parties or more than two parties, they argue their case by interpreting the same statute in a different manner. So should there be something to guide our conduct, or should there be nothing to guide our conduct? What do you have to say? Anybody? Should there be laws? Should there be no laws? Should there be goals? Should there be no goals? You should have. Who will decide what goal should be there? Now Mishra says that we have created some sustainable development goals. But there are only a few nations who have accepted that. There are some who are not party to that. But they are the goals for the entire global community. We have created goals for the entire community, in which a part is not a party to it. And secondly, even those nations which are party to it, a very large majority is not even aware of it. The time for completion of Millennium Development Goals is finished and over in 1415. Till today, learned people, educated people, we are not aware of what the goals were. And yet we talk of success of these goals. The part success, and based on that part success, making that as assumption and making that as the basis, creating next set of goals, and which is called sustainable development goals. So what is all this about? I'll just try to help you to understand this entire conundrum by taking you to my own mythology, the Hindi mythology. We have had two gods, Lord Rama and Lord Krishna. Can any one of you tell me what is the difference between the two? Anybody? Lord Rama and Lord Krishna. Yeah, please.
Lord Ram came in the Dwapar Yuga and Lord Krishna came in the Lord Ram came in the Treta Yuga and Lord Krishna came in the Dwapar.
Sit down, beta. Thank you. That is only the time, beta, time difference. The difference between the two is we call Rama as the Maryada Purushottam. One who has followed the expected code of conduct irrespective of what the consequences were. 100% compliance of the law or the custom or the tradition. And on the other part is Lord Krishna. Krishna is known as Swachand. Swachand means he has adapted himself to the situation, to the need, to the requirement. He is the God of love, compassion, and nature, how it comes. But both are gods. We follow both. In fact, we have 330 million types of gods in India. Why was it so? Whether they were actual or imaginary, whichever way it be, but why was there a requirement of so many gods? Because this is the only mythology which allows its people to think differently, to think creatively. Because for every different kind of conduct, there is a God. And there is an ideal. You can follow that ideal. And yet you will not be breaking the law. And yet you will be creating a positive result. Not harming somebody. Laws, therefore, will have to be seen in a different light today. This younger generation, especially in my country, which is today known as Youngistan, Youngistan because 64% is youth and more than about 55 crore youth is below 25. They are the ones who are going to shape the future of this country and going to have a very, very serious impact on the global platform. Very serious impact. Let me tell you that today. We have to visualize the very mega impact that this next generation which is just coming, how it is going to shape the world. If we do not visualize that, we will be left behind in our own country. We need to think differently. This is the generation which is going to question everything. Should we have laws? Because the fact that you say that this is the goal or this is the law, you are trying to bound a person within a defined set of confines of the conduct expected. We are also assuming, therefore, that there is likely to be a violation, that there is likely to be a crime, that there is likely to be an offense. If that assumption is not there, and if the contrary assumption is there, that no, everybody is going to do what one is expected to do for positivity, growth, and development of the humankind, of the society, and of the environment, then there is no need of law. So the fact that you're assuming that law is required is on the basis that somebody is going to do something wrong. Now this next generation which I see with tremendous amount of energy and positivity, it makes me feel very confident to assume that a very large number of them are likely to act, behave and conduct themselves in a manner that laws should not be required. Or at least it should be so. Would that be a better situation? What do you say? Would that be a better situation? Where a large majority on their own conducts themselves in a manner that they are able to create positive results, growth and development for humanity itself, for society itself, for the global human community itself, and for the environment itself. Would that be a desirable situation or no? No? Yes. Younger generation? Yes. I suppose yes. And why I suppose yes is because I am still young. And I am going to grow younger because I am in this company of 8.5 million youth. They make me feel younger every day. If that be so, or if partly, if we agree to that, supposing we agree that not everybody is going to be like that, but at least partly it will be like that. And if we say that a large majority should actually behave in that manner, then what is the need today? Is the need to create laws only, or is there a need to create laws for those small minority who may not conduct themselves in a defined manner, but at the same time to cater to the majority, to enable them, to empower them? Should we create systems which will be more positive, guiding factors, enabling factors, empowering factors, systems, institutions, organizations, which will help our next generation to grow in a manner that on their own, without the need of the threat of law, they should be able to conduct their business, their life as they like, enjoy it as they like, but at the same time ensure that the human, societal and environment development takes place to the best of feasible conditions in different countries, because every country today is in a different state of development. Not everybody is going to be able to follow the same set of requirements. We have in our own country places where people living are in better off conditions. We also have places where the conditions are not so good and they need improvement. Similarly, there are some other countries which are even worse. And there are more countries which are even worse. We need to cater for all of them. This set of people who are learned, young, capable, or should I say those who have, need to give to those who do not have. And on that I want to narrate a very, very small incident from Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, there is a small character which not many of you may have read, known as Barbarik. This gentleman, Barbarik, at the age of 4.5 years, happens to get an opportunity to come face to face with Lord Krishna. And he says, Madhav Pranam, he says Pranam, complimenting each other, wishing each other. And thereafter he says, Madhav, मुझे आपसे एक प्रश्न पूछना है. Oh Lord, I want to ask you a question. Lord says, okay, yes, go ahead. So Barbaric says, hey Madhav, मुझे मानव जीवन की प्राप्ति हुई है. I have been blessed to be born as a human being. मुझे कृपया ये बताएं, प्लीज टेल मी, कि मानव जीवन का सबसे अच्छा सदुपयोग क्या है? What is the best utility of this human life that I have been blessed with? Lord Krishna was taken aback, because it is seen that a large majority, they realize this question only when they reach the age of 80, 85, 90. Then they start searching for answers to such questions. So Lord Krishna was taken aback and he felt very happy and he said, Barbaric, आपने बड़ी अच्छी अवस्था में बड़ा अच्छा प्रश्न पूछा है. You asked the relevant question at a very good time in your life, because you have full life ahead of you where you're going to implement what I tell you today. And then he says, Barbaric, मानव जीवन का सबसे अच्छा सदुपयोग दूसरों के लिए जीवन जीना है. The best utility of this human life is to live for others and not live for yourself. And there is the nectar for laws. If the human conduct is guided by this one single principle that I am going to live for others, there will be no requirement of laws. The requirement of laws is coming about only because of greed, selfishness, and many other similar factors which are there. मेरा देश, मेरा बेस, मेरा बेटा, मेरी बेटी, मैं मंत्री, इसको भी टिकट दे दो, मैं अफसर, इसको भी मेरे पास नौकरी लगा दो, or whatever it is. Many such examples. It literally doesn't mean that way, but I'm just indicative. There's so many of this. Therefore, there is a need to think about human conduct and human behavior. Because the laws and goals are basically meant for guiding this human behavior. If that behavior goes ahead of this, these become meaningless. So we have a question today. And the question is that as learned people, are we going to evolve and go ahead in life, or go behind and be bound by laws? Because we are going to assume that we are going to not act properly, and therefore we require laws, and therefore those laws should be binding on us, and that sword of Damocles should keep hanging on me, that if I violate, I am going to be hanged. Or that if that millennium goal is not achieved, or if that sustainable goal is not achieved, then we are lagging behind in growth, we are lagging behind in development, we have not developed as human beings, that human development index is falling. I don't know what is it. A large amount of that you need to see. We were very lucky. We were very lucky because we were given birth by our parents in a set of circumstances which happened to be reasonably good. We were also lucky that we got so many other facilities. But every human being aspires that he or she will give a better tomorrow to his or her next generation. I am adding one more factor now. Earlier I said, live for others, which meant in the current scenario for all my co-human beings. Now, besides the co-human beings in the current time, I need to create a world which is good for my next generation, and next generation, and next generation, and next generation. Why I'm saying 5 times? Because people today have become very short-sighted. They only want to create wealth so that they can enjoy, not even for their own children. Some of them at least. We need to cater for at least a couple of 100 generations. And if that thought be that way, and if that foresight is that way, and if your planning is that way, then the growth and sustainability of the ecosystem and this earth will then get taken care of. The desertification that is taking place, the deforestation that is taking place, the excessive exploitation of minerals that is taking place, all that you'll take care the moment you start thinking of the 100th generation after you. I am therefore most passionately going to recommend to you to evolve as much more improved, evolved human beings who require very few laws, easily understandable laws, easily implementable laws, simple goals. Today somebody is calling sustainable development goals. Tomorrow somebody will call global goals, more goals, development goals, some other goal. It keep on happening. There is no end to this. Therefore, the answer lies in having just 2 goals. I'm trying to cut short now because I just saw my watch. Have only 2 goals in life. These 2 goals are: goal number 1, have good character. When you say good character, it means that you have absolute integrity,